I believe that instead of putting our head in the sand and running the other direction, I believe the thoughtful and intelligent approach is to embrace it. It's a good drug that's been around for a couple decades. Instead, inform consumers, require them to use it properly with resistance training, with aerobic conditioning, with proper diets, with proper dosing schedules.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today I'm joined by Jeff Zwiefel, Executive Director of Life Time MIORA. In this episode, we discuss Life Time's evolution from gym chain to athletic country club and their recent entry into healthcare. We also cover the company's newly launched longevity clinics, plans to expand the concept, and why they opted to prescribe GLP-1s like Ozempic. Let's get into it. Before we get into the episode, I want to tell you about a new service we launched. Every business leader knows hiring is hard. That's why we created Fitt Talent. It's a specialized recruitment firm helping health, fitness, and wellness companies hire world-class talent. We tap the Fitt Insider community and our broader network to place high performers in impactful roles. If you're planning your next hire, visit talent.fitt.co to learn more about our recruiting services and get started today. Hi, Jeff. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to the conversation. And I think obviously a lot of our listeners will be familiar with Life Time and certainly know the company and have followed along. And so have like a general awareness of, the athletic country clubs, as you all describe it, and the healthy way of life. But either for those who aren't familiar, or maybe even for those who are, and giving them a little bit of context in terms of where things stand today. What is the kind of state of the union at Life Time, and a little bit about your role as well?
Yeah, Lifetime has been committed to this healthy way of life mission that we've been on for over 30 years now. We're proud to say that the evolution of the company and the brand is now in 43 major markets. We've got 170 plus locations, iconic destinations, and the brand we think is extremely well differentiated and established now as a premium luxury brand, and really trying to focus on execution of the best people, best places, and the best programs, Joe. And we want to be able to serve those consumers ranging from 9 years old to 90 years old. So that's the opportunities that we have. Obviously, over the last couple of years, our founder, Brahmakrati, has been aggressively leading the charge on our expansion in pickleball and being the national dominant leader. In short order, I'll know we'll have over 800 some dedicated courts for consumers at the explosive growth of that tremendously attractive segment of both social entertainment and sport. And we just continue to stay committed to serving our customers, delivering these best-in-class experiences, whether it be in the verticals of healthy eating, whether it be in our luxury spas, whether it be in our kids programming, our personal training business, our Group X, yoga, cycle. We are committed in making sure that we have a holistic approach. Lifetime is uniquely positioned with the 175 locations and over 1.5 million members with over 100 million swipes per year. So our clubs are heavily utilized, post-COVID even more heavily utilized than they were pre-COVID. So we attract a customer that's committed and interested in the best experiences.
Absolutely. I think there's so many kind of threads to pull on there, from, the expansion of locations to the programming services, this idea that it is built around obviously kind of community, socializing, bringing people together, but also that through line of healthy living. And so when you think of the programming, when you think of the nutrition offerings, when you think of even in some ways hospitality, sports, athletics, and that's not even getting into, which we'll kind of talk about, like, I don't know how you think of them, but other divisions almost, work and living and, now longevity. Where is that focal point when you start to think about the value proposition of this is why the majority or the kind of average customer comes through the doors, and then this is how we layer on this value proposition for them?
I think it's the uniqueness of that customer journey that is so diversified and provides so many opportunities depending on where we're able to meet them in their current endeavors, and then how we're able to continue to challenge and motivate and keep them interested, excited, and engaged in that journey along the way. And then ultimately, the fact that we own and operate so many athletic events in our portfolio as well, like our Leadville 100 mountain bike race, the race up here north, two races up, mountain bike races up here that I participate in personally as well, in Lutzen and in Wisconsin here and in Chequamegon. These are kind of things that people can continue to participate in, whether it be our Miami Marathon, our Chicago or New York events, as all iconic events. I might be coming in just walking on the treadmill for 20 or 30 minutes, and in the next year or so, I'm participating in one of our iconic triathlons or our Leadville 100 mountain bike race. So that's the great thing about the journey and the exciting thing about keeping those folks involved for a lifetime.
Yeah, makes sense when you phrase it that way. And back to the namesake, that is one area. We'll come back to some of the things you mentioned, but the events, I don't know if most people make that connection to the event offerings. Of course, it makes sense in terms of this journey, right? Taking them on. Maybe they come to the event and then they make their way to the facilities, or they're at the facilities, and the events are an opportunity to kind of pursue this lifestyle or competition or community, whatever personal kind of performance. And maybe quickly, I don't want to divert too much, but when you think about the kind of event offering, is that something that will continue to expand as you add locations, or is it a point where you feel like you have a good portfolio and you want to maintain that? How do you think about growing that in-person experience offering?
Yeah, I think, you know, we've got a tremendous leader in that business. His name is Kimo Seymour. That's the president of our athletic events division. And that business has been more about optimizing fewer iconic events that are really in alignment with the Lifetime brand. And so I think we've been thoughtful about fewer of the best events. And I think that will be continue to be the strategy going forward, because we want to make sure those events are world class, like they are. They're memorable, they're impactful for the person and the consumer, regardless of whether they're an elite athlete or it's their first race of their life. That those events, as you can appreciate being in this business, are extremely memorable, and the Lifetime destinations become an avenue for that consumer to prepare and get their VO2 max and their aerobic endurance in a position, and their lactate capabilities and their ability to store glucose, obviously, to be able to be proficient at those kinds of events and enjoy them in a way that we certainly want them to. But as we all know with events, it's as much about the post events and the social and the camaraderie as anything else. And, that's like our clubs, Joe. These events are about creating social connection and about community and about finding your tribe. And whatever those might be, we have probably more of those communities within our vertical of our 100,000 plus square foot clubs than anyone else, because the good and the challenging part of our business model, Joe, going back to your earlier point, is we have all these distinct value propositions uniquely positioned all within under one roof, unlike others. And the simplicity and purity of offering a cycle studio or a yoga studio or a Pilates studio, as we all know, are proliferated all over the US. Our commitment to our customers that those are as good or better than the freestanding models that you can find in the market. And we saw that coming as early as 2017 when we started the performance revolution in our company, and recognized early on, Joe, that no longer can the multi-purpose club operator survive by having these watered down or diluted programs within their club that have a chance of competing with the standalone boutiques and studios. And we started 2015, 16 and went hard at it in 2017 at making sure everything we did, from the physical space to the technology to the program design to the performer, was absolutely best in class, because every one of those programs are critical to the overall performance of our ecosystem working, and the numbers working, of course, for our business model.
I think that is like, when you get right down to it, when you think about how expansive the offering is, and it is kind of end to end in various customer journeys and all the services and aspects of health under one roof. But then obviously the challenge then becomes of, how do we make these exceptional? How do we, because we did kind of see this evolution in the industry of the big box gym, and then the boutiques fragmenting that, and then versions of them kind of coming together, and obviously recovery and wellness and nutrition, building these connected but fractured experiences around or within them. And now someone like yourself comes along and says, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this best in class across all these different areas. The obvious question then becomes, how is that it possible to maintain the quality that they are spending a premium to be a member, and they do somewhat expect to have the quality at a certain level across all of these things. But so they still don't, and I'm sure some people do, but don't have to feel like, oh, I still need to maintain a membership over here at this other studio, or I still need to see this expert, at this other offering.
Our customers, to your point, are already going elsewhere and seeking out these longevity and anti-aging services. And there's only so far, as you know, Joe, being in the business like you are and so connected, and that a personal trainer can take that customer on that journey, and they have to refer them somewhere else. You think about some of the stats, they're pretty mind-blowing. 88% of consumers say they want more personalized healthcare. No denying that, right? 70% say they're dissatisfied with the current health care system. 63% believe that they want to spend on prevention, not reactive disease prevention and treating symptoms, like the traditional healthcare system does. Average length of time to see a doctor is 26 days. I mean, it's up 24% since 2004. So that frustration. Then you think of the convergence of three things: more people seeking ways to slow down or reverse the aging process; two, the trend of healthcare continuing to treat, prevent disease; three, you think of the advancement of research, science, and technology now, Joe, really coming to light, as you said, on cold therapy, on red light therapy, on age clock. When you see what's happening with hormone replacement therapy, peptides, continuous supplementation, and then you look at the aging process and the consumer with how we've been eating and how inactivity has gone, and obviously the obesity trends, that it's completely out of control. It was obviously chronic inflammation or metaflammation that most consumers are having. They're looking for answers. And we have put MIORA together in this pilot for the reason to address a couple different things. One, this trend of personalized, preventative, and predictive care. Personalized, preventative, and predictive. So we've put this program together that's holistic, and it's holistic in that it addresses the whole body, right? It's personalized because we start with the biomarkers. We start with over 90 some blood markers through this metabolic code to get a benchmark. And it's integrated because we take your medical practitioner, whether it be an MD, a PA, or an NP, and we connect the dots between a personal trainer and a registered dietitian. Because what was frustrating for me, right, when I started making some money and I went to my Morgan Stanley guy and I said, I got to go over here for my tax planning. I got to go here for my estate planning. I want to have a one-stop shop and here for my bank. And consumers are no different around their health. And there's two parts of it, Joe, right? One is I want to have a more integrated solution to look at me in a holistic way. Two, yeah, I care about how I look and I feel and how I perform, but I also want to think about 5, 10, 8, 10 years down the road, what kind of underlying chronic disease states are sitting there residually, the walking sick, that are undetected to me. And where your doc will say, for the most part, look at that blood work and say, you're cool, you're fine, right? Because they're doing, as we know, age-related norms. I'm 61, going to be 62 in May. I don't want to live off age-related norms. Most of our members don't. I want to live a high-quality life. I want to go from this position to this position in the end with nothing in between, right? And people understand that that means I want to live a high-quality life as long as possible. And so that's really what we're finding this trend to be. Our members get it, they desire it, and our response rate so far has been almost overwhelming in terms of our ability to manage the inflow. We put one destination amongst our 20-some clubs in Minnesota as a hub to try to be that opportunity. We've put in red light therapy, HBOC, we've put infrared saunas, we've put in cryo chambers. We've also put a full suite of cryo massage, hydro massage, our dynamic stretching in it. We've got an IV lounge, and then we've got aesthetics that are best in class as well, from hydrofacials to laser hair removal to Botox and so forth. So we have, but at the same time, we have partnered through this managed service agreement to bring in concierge medicine with a group of PAs. So we actually can go to your home, deal with your kid's ear infection as part of this subscription, and consumers are blown away by the value proposition.
There's so many aspects of that make sense, specific to how consumers are thinking about their health and well-being, shortcomings of traditional healthcare, especially when you take it that next step of saying, who is your target market, or within gyms and health clubs more broadly, it is people who are already working on their health. So naturally, they would want to know, what else can I do? How can I improve? And be willing to invest their time, their money in those types of services. I actually think we were heading in this direction pre-COVID, where it was the gym or health club as clinic, as this, like, whether you call it medically integrated or one-stop shop. You started to see the services kind of branch out, the integration more around recovery, focus on differentiated services. And of course that disappeared, right? When you have everything shipped to the home. And now we kind of have to like restart it from, okay, what does it look like now even more? Because not only are people more focused on their health and well-being, they also want to be around other people, social. So they're coming together again. So even more kind of momentum behind it.
And that's why, Joe, telehealth as an independent unit is difficult. The advantage that we can have is that sort of omni-channel connectivity of virtual as well as physical. And to your point, people, there's no denying, one, the customer cost of acquisition is significantly high that we don't have the challenge with, but the churn rate of a virtual or telehealth only versus the physical destination has a massive advantage because of what you said. You have connection, you have community, you have personal engagement, and undeniably I think that has a massive advantage.
Yeah, and there's a lot of these things that are also converging from quote unquote wellness or recovery. If you think of like IVs and red light therapy and all the offerings down that path, then med spa, aesthetics, Botox, facial, hair removal, and then kind of traditional healthcare, right? Whether if it's being delivered at home or if it's being delivered digitally or on site, it's still the checkups and prescriptions and you name it. How do you think about across that spectrum, some of them more proven than others scientifically, some of course, all of them, right? Consumers are willing to spend on them. There's no doubt that that certainly exists. But then there's this, whether it's efficacy, whether it's the level of oversight that's required to administer them, whether or not they're effective for the majority of people or not. How do you think about how we implement these? What level of rigor is going into doing that and like where the lines are maybe?
The growth of the category, coupled with the trends that we were talking about, Joe, ultimately, as we know, like any business, is going to create a flocking of players of different capabilities and competencies that are going to leave the field cluttered with a significant amount of illegitimate and snake oil, as we've all seen in various other parts of the business. And so I would say our vetting process starts that it's got to be safe, tested, scientifically validated. It cannot be speculative. It's got to have evidence based research. It's why we've partnered with an individual like Dr. James Laval, who's a renowned longevity and anti aging expert, co chair of the International Peptides Association, significant part of the American Academy of Anti Aging Medicine. And experts like that in vetting every protocol and offering that we're going to plan to create. And so there's no denying that we as a brand can't do anything to jeopardize this coveted 30-year plus mothership brand of Lifetime. And so we're going to be extremely cautious and pragmatic and thoughtful about what we offer, why we offer it, and most importantly, kind of how we do it, to your point. There are significant varying state laws and regulations, as you can appreciate, relative to the requirements of medical professionals. We're going to always be a step above or ahead of that in our approach to that when it comes to bioidentical hormone therapy. We're not going to administer any of these products without also starting with the benchmark of the biomarkers that become our opportunity to really understand and look inside the chemistry and the biology of the actual person and get a look not just outside but on inside and understand truly what's happening. And that's why we're using this metabolic code as a mechanism to, which is the first cloud-based sort of solution in the field of integrated medicine to really take a holistic look and then develop an exercise plan, a dietary plan, a supplement plan, and a prescriptive compounds. But again, they're going to be all designed using these health professionals. So we have medical director oversight. We have either MDs or physician assistants in the locations and nurse practitioners. So everything that is being provided and prescribed to the customers will ensure that it is appropriate based on the state laws and regulations that we need to live through. So we want to make sure that, again, we do it right and that we've always been a company that is committed. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And there will be no shortcuts. And that's the way we've been able to continue to build the brand so effectively. And if you've ever been in a Lifetime, you experience that, as you know.
That piece that you added about the, I don't want to say ancillary, but supportive that if you are prescribing or administering any type of treatment prescription, there's the behavior change, the exercise, the nutrition, the expertise, the knowledge, the access to those things basically on premises to make sure that that holistic approach is there. Whereas a lot of what typically happens, it's, are people doing the necessary steps? Are they following the lifestyle behaviors? Are they even taking the medication? Medication adherence is a huge problem in and of itself. So you have all of those things. Of course, all of this is most kind of in the spotlight relative to GLP-1s, Ozempic, weight loss drugs. And I think it's interesting because there are so many other aspects of this. If you just look at the quote unquote wellness services or biohacking, right, that has been in the zeitgeist for quite some time, but nobody necessarily kind of seized on it in the way of that it has been as controversial in the news. It was relative to, oh, this is only for rich people, right? This is like something that billionaires in Silicon Valley, they do all these weird things and look at them over there. What is this about? But now it's moved with GLP-1s way more into the mainstream. And it's also struck a chord with people because there is this tension between, is this the shortcut? Is this the easy way out? Should we be questioning the willpower and the willingness to put in the work, right? Which is kind of so much part of the traditional fitness experience. How do you recognize or reconcile and think through like that aspect of it from almost a, I don't want to say maybe cultural lifetime perspective or philosophical and even managing the kind of news cycle of it all?
Yeah. No, it's absolutely a great topic of discussion, Joe, and I appreciate you bringing it up because it is easy to conclude that if a program like our MIORA Performance and Longevity is going to include a semaglutide or GPL-1 agonist, then it's a magic bullet or quick fix approach. And there's nothing farther from the truth for us, as you can appreciate it. So there's no denying that the unfortunate reality of these kinds of drugs is there are going to be people and providers that are going to take shortcuts and do it purely for the financial opportunity. With the 300% growth of the category, it's clearly exploding. And I am so positive, encouraged, done right about the opportunities to help people lose weight and curtail this horrific obesity epidemic that we're up against as a society. And so I believe that instead of putting our head in the sand and running the other direction, I believe the thoughtful and intelligent approach is to embrace it. It's a good drug that's been around for a couple decades, that instead inform consumers, require them to use it properly with resistance training, with aerobic conditioning, with proper diets, with proper dosing schedules, and in a way where you can establish the appropriate weight loss, not the aggressive, quick weight loss that most consumers seek. We are going to do it differently, and we aren't going to allow our members or our approach with MIORA to vary from that. And so you're right, that comprehensive nature of prescribing medication with this multidisciplinary approach and strategy is hypercritical for the success of this to work. Otherwise, I think you're going to have multiple things. You're going to have the key issue that we have of loss of lean body mass, as we know, with the Ozempic butt and Ozempic face. We're going to have the rapid weight loss and the yo-yo dieting that we've seen with other traditional weight loss programs. Or we're going to have people that are all taking too heavy of a dose and dealing with all the side effects like nausea and so forth. Or we're going to have people that are having to be on it for a lifetime, as we know. All the bad implications that we're trying to work against and guard against to use a drug in the proper way. And so I know you've seen the lifetime position statement that Natalie provided you. Hopefully it gave you context again about how we're looking to position Lifetime in this highly controversial space. Because I will say, Joe, initially, as an industry vet, I was skeptic at first, just like I was of looking at FinFin and everything else we've seen through the years. But as I dug in and looked at it in more depth and looked at the science and worked with medical professionals, I have believed that it's the right approach with the caveat of done right.
We're still very much in the early innings of how it plays out and where it's being dispensed and how it's being administered, the holistic programming and what works and what doesn't. It will certainly be interesting to see when you think about this push broadly into longevity services, how much of that opportunity is in like traditional healthcare and insurance dollars versus what has traditionally been obviously member dues and they're paying that out of pocket. And even with ancillary services, that's still an out of pocket expense. How far down the path of, hey, whether it's wellness and prevention as medicine or exercise as medicine, how does this all kind of intersect with healthcare and insurance dollars? Because that really does then transform what the business model looks like, what the offerings look like into the future.
Yeah, because one of the key points that I think you're getting at is some of these pharmaceuticals are expensive, right? And to your point, our objective is to bring this kind of service to the masses. You made a very good illustration earlier about longevity programs have been for the lifestyles of the rich and the famous, the executive physicals at Mayo and Cleveland Clinic and so forth of $18,000 to $20,000, the fountain lives of the world. But we're bringing it to consumers at $199 a month subscription and access to all of this with the $300 initial biomarker, blood lab, metabolic code, and medical consult. But I think the way we're approaching it initially, given that the traditional healthcare system, we've been intentionally not thinking that we're big enough and strong enough to modify that and change that path. That's so deeply entrenched and rooted in our society with the administrators and the co-payers and the all the hands in the cookie jar, that we understand that we've got to let that run in a parallel track, and we will create our own parallel track and let the consumer decide who migrates over at free will to those health decisions to take control of optimizing their health. And we're not running a program with third-party payers or insurance. We will take FSA and HSAs, but it's cash, and we're at a price point where we think it's a very workable solution. Consumers can go seeking reimbursement, but as an example, Joe, with the Lifetime leverage and purchasing power and brand name, we're able to go out and take a semaglutide that retails generally in the marketplace for $950 to $1,000 a month subscription and offer that for about $400 a month to our consumer. And the same high quality compounding pharmacies that we've partnered with to ensure that we're not gouging the consumer and we're not looking for maybe the traditional margins that big pharma might look for. And so we're taking a very different approach and trying to figure out how to do it right, but also how to bring it to the customer in a more affordable way, just like the Lifetime way has been.
Yeah. Maybe a couple more questions before we get you out of here. I want to be mindful of the time there. Does this then become Lifetime Medical, or is MIORA the kind of standalone brand? Is that figured out yet?
Yeah, I'll tell you that Lifetime has dabbled and experimented for many years around this category. In fact, in 2000, I don't know what was 5 or whatever it might, 2014 or 15, we stood up a number of proactive care clinics across our destinations where we were doing primary care. And we hired a bunch of docs, and we learned a ton of mistakes, and we retreated, and we have used a bunch of those learnings. We had a program in the past called My Health Check, which was a B2B program. We developed a program within Lifetime called My Health Score in the past. So all of these learnings have provided the platform for us to make sure that the way that I'm approaching it with MIORA Performance and Longevity is the right one. But we will intend to roll out in all Lifetime major markets as we prove the concept here and validate the customer experience and obviously the financial metrics. And we will look to partner with the best in breed longevity and anti-aging doc groups in every market and structure these MSA agreements in a way that are with those legitimate and well-established partners already in our major markets. And so as we go into Dallas, as we go into Houston, as we go into New York and New Jersey market, the Denver, Phoenix market, Chicago market, we will identify those folks that have the very similar philosophies and approaches that we're taking with MIORA. And we will create that partnership, I think, that will expedite our success.
Yeah, I think that's a very smart approach and a lot of learnings, as you said, that to get us to this point. We've covered a lot of ground in this conversation. One thing that I did want to touch on, there's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of programs, offerings, expansion, new locations beyond longevity and the pickleball and some of the things we talk, New York and new cities, things like that. What is on your mind in terms of the challenge, like what the thing, the hurdle in front of you, the thing that's kind of front of mind saying like, and we also have to do X or be mindful of this as we continue to grow this business?
Keeping a complex business as simple as possible. And that simplification for us has always revolved around making sure that we deliver that customer experience that is, best in class. When we are committed and dedicated to protecting our mothership brand of Lifetime, and that everything we do serves that brand and builds that brand and doesn't become a detriment to that brand in any way. We are maniacal about measuring NPS in our business in every way. We measure our team member NPS, and the executive team in the past have simplified and distilled that down. Does the customer give it a +1, a 0, or a -1, right, through their experience? And we just need to continue to build the pluses in those experiences every day, Joe. And we know when that happens through our service profit chain, the financial results as a public health company will take care of themselves. The growth of revenue, the growth of EBITDA, the growth of contribution margin, the revenue per square foot, the revenue per member, the attrition rates, everything that we talk about will all take care of itself in our model when we stay highly committed to creating those best-in-class destination experiences and making sure, like we said earlier, Joe, that every one of our programs are as good or better than anything else out there in the marketplace. Best people, best programs, best places. And it goes back to the complexity of executing that value proposition.
I think that was really well said and a great takeaway to leave people with, just in terms of making sure that experience end to end, no matter what, is always exceptional for the end user. And that kind of the right thing is the right thing, and it kind of takes care of itself in the end. Well, we're going to wrap it up there, Jeff. Thanks so much for joining us. Really grateful for the time and excited to share this conversation.
Pleasure to have this discussion. Thank you, Joe.
One more thing before you head out. Help us spread the word. Take a minute to rate and review the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, or share this episode with a friend. And if you like conversations like this, you'll love the Fitt Insider newsletter. We send it every Tuesday. The link is in the description. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week.